Hello everyone, my name is Clay, and welcome to another review. Today, I invite you to spend a nerdy moment with me as I discuss my thoughts on Encased, an indie CRPG that was developed by Dark Crystal Games after a successful Kickstarter.
It was nice chatting.
It released on September 7th, 2021 after about 2 years in early access, and I personally bought the game in early access and played it for about 11 hours before waiting for its full release. My final Steam playtime was 37.7 hours, which means my finished playthrough only took me 26.7 hours. This game is fairly short. The story of Encased is mostly focused on your character. You play an employee of the CRONUS Corporation, a sort of megacorp made up of all the countries of the world after the discovery of the Dome. What is the Dome? Well, it's a strange anomaly, a literal dome of energy, that allows any matter to pass into itself, but only the dead or inorganic matter can leave. Inside are strange ruins and artifacts from a race called the Forefathers, and the CRONUS Corporation makes a living sending people into the dome to live and export the relics. Your character will be from one of the 5 wings of CRONUS, and the game starts with you arriving for your first day of work, before being sent to another base to investigate why an away team and the base went dark. Then, the incident occurs, and you wake up in a world that is very different from where you started. I don't want to give too much more away about the actual plot, but I will say this. It doesn't live up to the promise it sets up in the opening prologue, in my opinion.
Good day to you.
In fact, most of the actual quest writing can be summed up as average. Much of the narrative design seems almost workmanlike. It's there to get you from point A to point B.
Don't be shy.
And I think this is in part
See ya.
due to how Encased was designed. You see, the developers were very pleased by the fact that you can kill literally every living thing in the game and still finish it. No NPC is protected or required. They can all be killed before you even speak to them. But in doing this, they had to create a narrative structure that could work if Person A is dead. So you end up with a narrative that just feels bland. And at no point was I ever wowed. At no point was I ever like, holy crap, I didn't see that coming. But at the same time, I was never like, oh god, this writing is so bad. I was just like, yeah, there's some plot, okay, where to next? Hell, I even found the companions to be bland outside of the Robo-Kid Yoko. I just stopped caring after the events of the prologue. It's a bad sign when your player just stops caring about a story when you're making an RPG. And the ending? There are 14 endings, apparently. And I looked them up and they are all variants of betray a faction or help a faction. Plus there's the you save everyone or you kill everyone. And then there's 2 unique ones that require very specific requirements to access, but still amount to help a faction. Oh, and the game tricks you into thinking you can keep going after the final mission. You get to pick up your companions after making the final choice, tell them you're going on another adventure, and when you go to leave the map, the game goes to the credits, to a set of end slides, and that's it. I hate that sort of bait. I absolutely hate it. However, this game does have some stellar writing and design in the actual locations. My favorite parts of the game narratively were when I was exploring the ruins around the dome, just trying to piece together what happened in each location, finding the logs, the notes, terminals with journals and email, and the various piles of dead bodies, and just trying to understand what happened was way more interesting to me than any of the actual quest writing. I would definitely say that this game is more of an exploration and survival RPG than an actual story-driven RPG. Thankfully, in addition to the locations being interesting from a story and narrative perspective, they also look good. This game looks great pretty much all the time. I love the environmental design, the way the different buildings and ruins looked, even the enemy designs were creative. Also, your weapons and armor are reflected on your character, which is really nice. The UI is also fantastically designed and really easy to read, which I love. All the text and tooltips are really nice and big as well. The game also seems to run really well, which is nice. I pretty much kept a constant 60 FPS while playing, and I ran it on the maximum settings. One thing that absolutely surprised me was the voice acting. When I played the early access version, it didn't have voice acting, and I was fine with that. This is an indie game after all, I didn't expect a voice cast. But the release version does have voice acting, specifically for the main story questline and NPCs, and it's good voice acting as well in both English and Russian. Each character sounded distinct and easy to understand. The sound effects for weapons and abilities are also great. Each shot sounds good, it sounds appropriate. However, on the music side of things, I barely noticed any. There's a really nice main menu theme, and then nothing? If there is music, it's very quiet. I suppose that makes sense as the world is supposed to be all deserted, barely living, but there doesn't even seem to be ambient music at all. This is a missed opportunity if you ask me, and apparently there has to be music, as you can buy the soundtrack. But I don't remember the music. Alright, let's move into gameplay, and we'll start with character creation. I do want to say that the level of customization this game allows is pretty solid, and during character creation you will be making your character freeform. First, you will need to select your wing, which are orange, the labor wing, blue, the technicians, white, the science wing, black, the military and guard, or silver, the management wing. This wing will have a slight effect on story options and the way characters treat you, and will also give you specific skill and stat starting bonuses. You also have your attributes, which are things like muscle, deafness, brains, and so on. These, combined with your skills and other modifiers, will create your overall stats like crit chance and so on. Bear in mind, you cannot raise your attributes after character creation permanently. You can only use drugs and other things to temporarily increase them. I mention this because of the way the skill system works. This game uses a mix of combat skills and non-combat skills to power everything. Want to use a servo shell, this game's power armor, you will want a high piloting skill to make the most of it. Want to use a pistol? That's light guns, and so on. At character creation you can tag 3 of these skills to give them a boost, and all skills can get to a maximum level of 150. Furthermore, every 30 points in a skill will give you feats, which are active and passive powers tied to that skill. However, many of these feats also have attribute requirements, and if you don't have the right attribute level, the feat will not be usable by you. So when you're making your character, keep this in mind. There are also perks you can earn every 3 levels, but I found many of them to be lackluster, if I'm being honest. I did also confirm with the devs that there is no level cap, so in theory, you could grind out to the max in every skill and every perk in the game, as there are random encounters when exploring the map. Although apparently enemies will scale with you, so be warned. Finally, this game does feature an entire set of dialogue options for low intellect brains characters. Just set your brains to less than 2 and watch the fun begin. Once you've completed your character and are out in the world, the game plays like many other classic CRPGs. You have an isometric view from the top, you can rotate your camera, zoom in and out, click on objects to loot or interact with them, and talk to people. This game also features survival mechanics. You will need to manage hunger and thirst for your character as well as fatigue, and fatigue is this game's sort of kind of mana system. Most of your abilities will cause you to earn fatigue, and you can use various food, drink, and drugs to manage the fatigue and really all of these issues. You'll also need to learn to craft, as the best food items come from cooking, and you can also craft ammo, medical items, and so on. There is also a world map you'll run around on, but it's very no frills. Just click on the space to start moving towards there, and deal with random encounters along the way, which can be events, new locations, and vendors. The other major thing you deal with in this game is, of course, combat. Combat is turn-based. Period. There is no option for real-time with pause, which, personally, I'm fine with. I prefer turn-based. Your characters and your companion will start each round with a pool of action points. You can use those points to move, use items, or activate your powers and attacks. You can also save some AP by ending your turn early or use it to boost your defense. Enemies will follow the exact same rules as will NPC allies. It's pretty straightforward and no frills if I'm being honest, and if I'm being honest still, I found it started to get really dull later on as nothing really changed, just everything became more bullet spongy. Now, as far as bugs go, I only ran into 3 crashes/freezes in my entire run. 2 of those occurred in the town of Junktown, and 1 of them occurred right in the final dungeon of the game, but beyond that, the game has, for me, been bug-free and well-optimized. I'm very impressed with how stable the game has been for an indie RPG. I'm used to these things not being this way. However, bear in mind that other people are still reporting major game-breaking bugs. It's possible I simply avoided them. Further, even though I never really got any real bugs, that does not mean the game is free of issues for me. I have problems with some of the design of this game. Now, obviously, I already talked about my issues with the narrative and writing earlier, but there are other things that have caused me to get angry or frustrated with this game. First of all, NPCs can die. Literally any NPC. That's fine in theory, that's part of the game's design. Right up until you add in the town ambushes. If you're in town, that town can be attacked. And if it's attacked, the NPCs nearby will join in the fight to defend their town. The enemies can, and will, target these NPCs, who then can be killed permanently. I had a quest fail because the quest giver was killed before I could get to them in the fight. The ambushes also just slow the game down. If I'm trying to get somewhere or do something and then the ambush occurs, it gets really annoying. And just imagine if a vendor gets killed, you're never getting it back. Reloading the save doesn't seem to help either, as the ambushes will still happen. I tried that when Junktown got attacked the second time. I get that these ambushes are supposed to add realism to the game, but I could personally just do without it. It completely aggravates me. Some of the skills in the game also feel pointless. Piloting, for instance, adds bonuses to servo shell armor. But outside of that, it really has no use. I rarely had a use for it in the vehicle driving function. There is a vehicle you can get in the game, and I got it. However, other skills feel absolutely mandatory. Survival, medicine, and tech are all insanely useful, as is the criminal skill. One thing that drove me up the wall was the sheer amount of terminals in the game that I could interact with, only to be greeted by system lockdown on screen, meaning it was a pointless interactable. Some of these I had to hack, and then I got this. It made me feel like I was wasting my time. It's one thing to open a lootable object or a crate and get no loot. I'm used to that. Lots of RPGs do that. But if I click on a computer, which should only exist for lore, I should be getting some lore. I clicked it wanting lore and story. Making me click it and giving me system lockdown just pisses me off. And finally, I wish the difficulty settings were more granular. Give me some sliders and options to adjust things rather than just casual, easy, medium, hard, and so on. At the end of the day, this game is just decent. It's not fantastic. It's not going to shake up the world of the CRPG. But it's not horrible either. It's not trash, it's not poorly made, it's not terrible, it's just average. And if you were hoping for a new Fallout, you're going to be disappointed. If you were interested in it, I would consider grabbing it on sale, as you could do worse. And if you focus on playing it for its exploration aspects, I think you'll have a much better time. For me, however, I'm done with Encased, and I have no desire to go back to it. It's not for me, and I don't want to deal with it any further. As always, I want to thank you all so very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please share it around, like it, leave a comment, all that jazz. And hey, be kind to each other, stay nerdy, check me out on Patreon, and I'll catch you out on the next one. Take care.